Hey everybody, welcome to the live stream. Good, what's up, everybody? Rumble is online. I'm trying to do multi-stream. Oh, my mic. That's an important thing. Gotta have my mic. For some reason, Facebook and YouTube won't connect. I don't know what the issue is. It says everything is online, but for some reason, Twitch, Rumble, and Rumble is live, right? I don't know. Anyways, welcome to the live stream. We got some important stuff to cover today with regards to breaking down the meeting between Trump and Xi. And we're also going to cover basically there's a rumor about Xi Jinping having a private army that he tried to use to claw back power. So we'll also talk about that as well. And then we also have some time for Q&A before I have to hop on some news live hits. So there's that. I'm not so sure why things seem like it's not working properly for Twitch and other. This is for the regular stream or the short stream. Let me close that down. Yeah, I don't know why my short stream is like not working. It's very strange. I don't know what's going on here. This is live. Everything is live. There we go. Hello, hello. For some reason, things were very slow to get started. All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the live stream. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, that's pretty funny. Yeah, I don't know why the Facebook and Rumble is not working properly. Let me refresh the page. And neither is Twitch. For some reason, Twitch is also not working. So I have to figure that out. But right now, it's just for the YouTube and Shorts. Hello from Boston. Very nice. I have a friend who's also from Boston. He no longer lives there, but he loves Boston. The audio stream's current bitrate is lower than recommended. You're at a bitrate of 120. Is it not on 120? Sweet. Thought my settings were audio would be 120. Stream. Yeah, it's 128. Oh, from Bangladesh. Welcome. Dear David, from where? I live in New York right now. I was born in China. Dude, I don't know what it is. It works when I tested it, but when I actually go to talk, it doesn't work anymore. Open widget. Stream. Well, can I even change it? I don't think I can change it anymore, right? Ontario. Yeah, Ontario. Dude, what chat, what do you feel about the Toronto accent? I had a I had a whole thing with a like one of my friend, we watched a bunch of Instagram reels on the Ontario, like Toronto accent. No, well, I could check. Let's see. No, things are running fine. I think it's something with my OBS because I'm using like a multi-stream thing from Atrium, but only YouTube and YouTube Shorts work. The other ones don't really work. Like, let me check Rumble. Live streams. It is okay. Rumble's working. Yeah, Rumble's working. How about Twitch? Let's see here. Channel. No, Twitch isn't working. Neither is Facebook. Anyways, let's start today. We're wasting time here. 45 minutes from Toronto. 45 minutes from Toronto. So let me guess you're like in like a surrounding city of Toronto, right? Or maybe like a smaller town. Okay, let's talk about our favorite topic, US China trade. So let's first go over the details of the meeting. Obviously it happened last night in time in the US, but it was morning in South Korea. So during the meeting, lots of things were essentially confirmed beforehand, such as the fentanyl, soybean, as well as the rare earth stuff, which already had happened in Malaysia with the Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent talking with the Chinese counterparts. But some of the stuff, just to refresh our minds, soybeans. So soybeans was a big contention point between the Trump administration and China because they had stopped buying soybeans. Now they're starting to buy soybeans again, which is a good thing. But overall, it's not really a big deal in the sense that like it's not the main issue with this trade war. The second one is fentanyl. Fentanyl is also again one of those things that's been long in the discussion since the Obama era. So it's nothing new, right? It's not something that suddenly became an issue, and it's one where the CCP has used its ability to crack down on the fentanyl issue as a bargaining chip, which they've never actually done. So this is the point to watch out for the next 6 months because uh, they promised that they will crack down on fentanyl precursors coming out of China. In return, Trump cut 10% on the fentanyl tariffs, making the overall tariffs on China around 47% right now. But the question is, will this actually stimulate um, people like businesses going back to China? I don't think so. And will it actually crack down on fentanyl? I really don't think so. I think it's one of those issues where you look at what China stands to gain from it. Well, they stand to gain a lot from having the fentanyl card. They can always say that yeah, well, look, I'm doing it. I'm cracking down on fentanyl. You can't say I'm not doing anything, but in reality, they're really not doing anything. So that's just been sort of the slow walk that they do. So we'll see. I think obviously the Trump administration is also careful, cautiously optimistic, as I always say, where they don't expect much from the Chinese regime until things actually happen, and which is why this trade talk is on an yearly renewal basis. But there's still some concessions that I think the CCP made. One of them is obviously the rare earth. The rare earth stuff is still, we have to look at the fine details, but so far the rare earth stuff is the really the center point of this, right? Um, yeah, chat says nuclear testing. Trump suggesting to test actual nukes compared to nuclear capable weapons. Well, the issue is they announced it like 45 minutes before meeting Xi, right? So in my opinion, whether this is clearly controversial, but whether this is a contentious point in how they approach it or not, that's really, I think, a domestic issue. But internationally, like the image that Trump projected was that, dude, like, we like they're also selling nuclear submarines to Korea or helping them build it, actually. So they're giving them some of the nuclear technology as well. And what happens in South Korea obviously matters a lot with North Korea and China as well. So this is, even though it looks like, the meeting itself wasn't that different or that explosive, groundbreaking, some of the stuff that happened around it, like the whole increasing partnership, or I would say even unprecedented level of return to cooperation with Japan, working with South Korea. South Korea just went from like not doing so hot with the trade things to suddenly becoming one of the top security partners because of that. Um, the nuclear submarines, and now it essentially forces South Korea to not side with the CCP on trade either, because well, we'll see. But I personally think that it's really hard, really tough for South Korea to still play both sides. Just simply because I think Trump went in with the confidence that the deal he made with Lee Jae-myung is going to be solid enough that he doesn't need more from China. Still, okay. With regards to the rare earth, right? This is obviously one of the only things that I think the U.S. is not prepared for, and it would take at least 5 years for them to improve their supply chain on rare earth. So in those times, you're relying on China. Now, obviously, what the CCP did was dumb because they played the rare earth card at the wrong time. They thought that this is now a good time to push out the rare earth threat, right? But I personally think it backfired because Trump just inked a bunch of rare earth deals in Malaysia, in Japan, probably more, with Canada, Australia. Japan actually has a huge deposit of certain rare earth minerals. In some instances, much higher than China. Now, what does this mean in terms of like the future? Obviously, this is not the final talk, and I think everything is still up for observation for regards to, again, those promises that the CCP made. But the interesting thing is this, actually. If you read the Chinese readout for the meeting, right? Oh, by the way, let's watch this first. Where is it? Okay, so this was the meeting, right, between the two. Um, like very interesting. She doesn't look that interested or happy. And I don't think this is because he's like somehow mad at Trump, but I think he looks very like just awkward. Like the dude doesn't speak English. He relies on the translator. So he can't get onto those personal engagement, like small talks with like Trump tries really hard here to be like, yeah, like this is my like my friend she or whatever. But it's just a whole awkward thing because of language. Having a translator is very different than having like English to English, right? Because I mean, like in most cases, the world leaders when they meet, they will speak some English. Even Putin spoke English, right? So like he has to appear like he's tough or whatever the case may be. But like dude doesn't look like he wanted to be there. He's just like, okay, whatever. Can we go now? Now the CCP bots are going to be like, hey, look, this is just like it's a projection move, right? Like they got to show that she is in control, blah 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 blah. But if you really think about it, that's just not how it looks. Uh, okay, so but somebody found something interesting with this. Where is it? Okay, so on Chinese state media, they only play like the handshaking for 3 seconds, and then that was it. I was like, okay, because usually when they portray the Chinese leader, it's like, you got to show, look, he's got an open arm position. Trump has to use his other hand. He's gaining the advantage here. Is he really though? Like in my opinion, like the focus for Americans isn't like, oh, dude, like look how they shook hands or whatever. It's just it's like common courtesy almost, right? And this is the place that it happened. It's just so this is in the Busan airport. It's just like a little venue that they found for these two people because like Trump was leaving Korea for to go back to DC. And this felt like, dude, like they literally had a meeting for an hour and a half, and then Trump just got on the plane and left. Like this didn't feel like that, historic, groundbreaking bilateral meeting that people expected to happen, like in the middle of this palace-like venue or like some five-star hotels, right? There's just some random little place that they went in and did the talk in. I'm still waiting for the official readout from the U.S. side, but still hasn't come out yet. Oh yeah, and then somebody, this is really awkward. So this is during Here, let me see if I can zoom out a little bit. This is during the meeting. For the shorts one, let me see if I can get that to zoom out. But basically the entire time, here, I'll play it. Okay, what is this music? Trump is like listening to Xi talk. He's looking at him. And then Xi is just staring at the paper because he cannot go off script. For some reason, everywhere he goes, he has this little like booklet he carries, or he has like a document that has all of his speech written on there. But you know, usually the opening remarks is pretty natural and off the tongue kind of thing, right? But he keeps staring down and he refuses to look at Trump. And so I'm like, dude, people are gonna try to spin this as anything but Trump being, you know, like that's what you're supposed to do, right? This is the normal thing. You look at the other world leader, not this stuff, like whatever she is doing here. He's like, look, reads, look, reads, look, reads. Pretty interesting stuff. Anyways, I like to analyze these small things. Okay, another thing that happened was on the Chinese side. So this is the People's Daily. Somebody wrote, this journalist named Ma Yuhang. He wrote an article on Xi Jinping attending the meeting, right? And then he wrote Xi Jinping's the Ping part wrong. It became Xi Jinghu. And so obviously, again, it's like one of those things that shouldn't happen on the CCP side. And apparently, here's the thing. Apparently, this guy has written a lot of articles. So one of his name is at the bottom here. So this guy graduated from Foreign Policy School, International Affairs and Relationship, and he has a bachelor's degree. And so I don't know if it's an intern or what, but he's written a lot of stuff. Like he's an editor actually. So he's even written like the Chinese readout for the fourth plenum. And look, the guy that's the editor here is him. So a bachelor's degree guy is an editor for the all-important political meetings. Pretty interesting. So people find out that he's probably some CCP official's kid who got offered the job to do this. There's no way a kid with a bachelor's degree is doing editing work. So for the vertical stream here, the name highlighted in red here, that's the guy that miswrote, or I guess he didn't write it, but he was the editor for it and he didn't catch the mistake. And he has a bachelor's degree. Pretty interesting. Why are you in Periscope mode? What does that mean, Periscope mode? Periscope mode. What does that mean? Oh, is it my camera? I'm not so sure what that means. Sorry. Okay, so let's analyze the Chinese readout, because this is the part where I think it's the most juiciest or the juiciest stuff that happened. Okay, so I don't like to read the English version because I think they mistranslate some stuff on purpose, but the Chinese original translation usually is much better. Okay, so it starts off whatever. It's like Xi Jinping points out, blah, 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 joint guidance, U.S.-China relations, overall stability. This is pretty typical, right? And then he goes on to say that given our different national conditions, differences inevitable, largest economy, occasional friction is normal, blah, blah, blah. Then he says that, so this first line is pretty normal. And then here, so normally Xi Jinping would actually start things off like this, but then he immediately goes into threats. But here he talks about the economy. He says that the economy has had a growth rate of 5.2%, which is, by the way, always fake in China, because this GDP number is usually an input number rather than an output number, meaning that they decide on the percentage beforehand and then they meet those targets rather than get them, at the end of the quarter and calculate them that way. And then says that it had a 4% increase in import and exports of goods to the world. This is achieved despite internal and external difficulties and is hard won. The Chinese economy is like a vast ocean with considerable scale, resilience, and potential. And we have the confidence and ability to cope with various risks and challenges. So essentially, normally at this point, he would be talking about things like how the world is facing tremendous changes unseen in a century, how China is a global player leading the world, blah, 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 blah. But here, this is the important part. So this is when he starts to kneel down. For more than 70 years, we have adhered to a single blueprint, working generation after generation, never seeking to challenge or replace anyone, but rather focusing on managing our own affairs well, becoming a better version of ourselves, and sharing development opportunities with other countries. This is the key to China's success. China will further deepen reforms comprehensively and expand opening up. So that's very interesting because deepening reforms comprehensively and expand opening up, along with the fact that they say, continuous economic development, whatever, is a typical line of the reform and opening up era. So this is not something that Xi Jinping preaches. Xi Jinping calls for a whole humanity common destiny, and then Xi Jinping's unique characteristics of socialism, development, all those things. So this is not his slogan, right? This is people before him. Striving to achieve effective qualitative improvement and reasonable quantitative growth in the economy, promoting the all-round development of people and common prosperity for all. It is believed that this will also open up broader space for Sino-US cooperation. So starting at that point, he's preaching about this cooperation aspect. Again, this is a huge sign. I've said it before. I don't know if on TV interviews or in the program, China is deliberately warming up the relations with the United States, partly of the reason because she's not in control of the military, he's losing power. There's people in the CCP that want to ensure that the party survives. And one of the ways to do so is to link up with the US again. So no more of this decoupling talk. Okay. So says Xi pointed out that economic trade, in-depth views, trade issues, finalize whatever. That's okay. Okay, so here, economic and trade relations should continue to be the ballast and engine of China-US relations, not a stumbling block or point of conflict. Both sides should consider the bigger picture and focus on the long-term benefits of cooperation rather than falling into a vicious cycle of mutual retaliation. The teams can continue to negotiate. So this is, again, one of those things that's very different than the traditional Xi Jinping style of aggression. I'll show you the Xi-Biden meeting readout. This is from last year. This is around the same time last year. So when Xi and Biden met in Peru. Okay. The difference here, first line is important to correct a strategic perception. Thucydides' trap is not a historical inevitability. A new Cold War should not be fought and cannot be won. Containing China is unwise, unacceptable, and bound to fail. Containing China is unwise, unacceptable, and bound to fail. Compare that to this, which is focus on the long-term benefits of cooperation rather than falling into the vicious cycle of mutual retaliation. And this engine of China-US relations, not a stumbling rock or a point of conflict. So there's very much a tone down on the threat level. It's still, you have a little bit, but not as much. Oops. So next he talks about the communications, cooperation. This is kind of dumb because, a lot of this already stems from the CCP to begin with, such as illegal immigration, telecom fraud, anti-money laundering, artificial intelligence, responding to infectious diseases. Did we just forget COVID-19 existed, came from Wuhan? Telecom fraud. The U.S. is one of the largest targets, is a Chinese-operated company in Cambodia for telefraud and pig butchering. Anti-money laundering, dude, literally the highest level of money laundering from China to US comes from top CCP officials. AI, again, it's an area that the US and China competes in. Illegal immigration, obviously that's a huge issue for the US as well. So none of these really they're they're going to help with, because those are issues that they caused to begin with. So they're just going to stop doing that. With the illegal stuff, right? You have the flow in of fentanyl. So none of this right now promises anything concrete or significant, because I mean, at the end of the day, like China, as much as the sweet talks go, like the promises are never kept, right? So like you come in with a grain of salt on this. All right. Okay. So the next thing is, okay, China and the US should also interact positively on the regional and international stage. The world today faces many challenges, and China and the US can jointly demonstrate their responsibility as major powers and work together to accomplish more significant, practical, and beneficial things for both countries in the world. Now, usually Xi at this point would say that things, unseen changes seen in a century. He's never said that in an official speech in 2025, another huge sign that he's losing power. And the fact that here he's just kind of trying to paint light onto his own face, saying that, oh yeah, China and the United States, we joined together to do things. But dude, come on, like, what has China done in the past year other than cause trouble, or even the past decade? They've done nothing, right? The reason why there's so many conflicts around the world is because China is financing Russia through oil purchases and drone parts and other things. And the fact that it supplies Iran with missile material so that Iran can go ahead and disturb the Middle East. Okay. Then he says, blah, 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 China and Trump relations good, great. There's a part I feel like I forgot. Oh yeah, Trump is going to go visit China in April. U.S. can feel like there's a part that I missed. Okay, no, I think that's good. So let's go to the one. This is from Biden and Xi, right? So this is exactly a year ago, almost. Well, less than a year, almost like a 11 month and 15 days. Anyways, it's pretty much a year. Okay, now, so first we said that, Xi opened with a threat here. Says containing China is unwise, unacceptable. Oops. There we go. And bound to fail. And then second, it says, second, it is important to match words. No, I can't talk right now. Match words with actions. A man cannot establish himself without credibility. China has always honored its words. If the U.S. side always says one thing but does another, it will be detrimental to its own image, undermine trust between China and the United States. Dude, that's another threat. That's literally saying that the U.S. has no credibility. Like, you openly say that to Biden, right? He doesn't say that to Trump. Whether intentional or not, that's another shift in tone from the 2025 version. Because the 2025 one, he is all cozy and warm loving, which is kind of weird actually to see this. Third one, it's important to treat each other as equals. Again, a direct stress of the fact that they say, China and US are on equal footings. Whereas in the 2025 version, it says, China and US work together as the two major powers. They're not saying that they're equal. Now, neither China nor the United States should seek to remodel the other according to one's own will, suppress the other from the so-called position of strength, or deprive the other of the legitimate right to development so as to maintain its leading status. So it's basically saying that, like, dude, don't tell me what to do. That was the threat from Xi last year. And then this year, he's saying that the key to China's success is focusing on their own affairs, become better versions of themselves, deepen reform comprehensively, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't say anything about, growing, like, don't dare to tell me what to do. We need cooperations instead. And then says, fourth, it is important not to challenge red lines and paramount principles. Contradictions and differences between the two major countries like China and the United States are unavoidable, but one side should not undermine the core interest of the other, let alone seek conflict or confrontation. Oh, and this one, the one China principle and the three China-US joint communiques are the political foundation of China-US relations. They must be observed. The Taiwan question, democracy and human rights, China's path of system, and China's development right are four red lines for China. They must not be challenged. these are the most important guardrails and safety nets for China-U.S. relations. In this 2025 version meeting with Trump, Taiwan wasn't mentioned. Red lines weren't mentioned. The word security, if you search the word security, it does not exist in the 2025 version. Security is equivalent to national security, equivalent to defense, to stability of power, anything. That word was not mentioned a single time in this new readout. That's a huge indicator that this entire shift is happening. It's real, and it is very much a thing that's happening. And depends on how you interpret this. I personally see it as an issue of China shifting their tones because the Xi version of diplomacy is no longer how do I put it? Like it's no longer in control. That's what it is. How are you going back to make the military that can destroy anyone else pay back their debt? It's a non-starter. We're just waiting for an excuse to clear it all waived. Yeah. So like, I don't know. Are you saying the U.S. military? Is that what you're referring to? Can I name all the superpowers and soon-to-be superpowers? I think there's like 3: Russia, US, and China. I mean, not really Russia. I think it's just US and China now. Okay. So I think overall this like meeting is not an end. It's the start of something. I guess you call it a soft reset, but it's not really a reset. It's more like buying time on both sides. Like the rare earth card is going to expire in 3 to 4 years after this year. So in those times, the CCP will lose one of its top threats. And what does the CCP have to offer right now? Export, right? Everything else is failing. Housing market is down 30%. Domestic production, domestic consumption, enthusiasm for consuming things is down. There is no sign that businesses are returning to China, and the world's factory of today is shifting from China to Vietnam. There's not a lot of things going on for China except for the current state of export. And what essentially Trump had done is he traded 10% of tariffs for the guarantee of at least 1 year on the rare earth issue. And to me, I think that's evening the playing field at this point. But this leaves a lot of room for the long-term growth that the U.S. has to prepare for, which is rare earth and ensuring that this supply chain does not stay within China's reach. Does this indicate that Trump really conceded a lot? I don't think so. I think, if you look at this graph, where is it? This one. So this is pretty telling. Now, we'll start with back in, this is now 2019. So 2019, it was at 25% down at the bottom here. And once it went to the first month of the second Trump term to April, so spring, it went up to 160%. And then it went down, right? In September, it went down to, I think, 50% or so, 57%. And now it's down to 47%. So in overall, like, it's still an increase on the amount of tariffs that China is receiving. But if you account for some of the stuff, like they're pausing the 301 tariffs, they haven't finished the 232 investigations. They have to concede the 50% blanket tariffs put out by the Commerce Department. When you kind of give and take all those things, it goes down to about 20-something%, which is still pretty high. It's a little bit higher than Vietnam, but it's still not like anything, back to normal. I think it's still around 27% or 25%, which is essentially where things began anyways. But with having said everything, I think the key here is to understand that I don't think this is they're going to sign some deals, but I don't think this is over yet. In fact, I think the White House is very aware of the fact that if they don't follow through on fentanyl or on the trade, like buying soybeans and stuff like that, that the numbers could go back. Or even within a month or two, maybe Trump thinks that things didn't go as planned and he just shoots it back up. Who knows? Those can happen. But I think that's why I really think that this time Xi Jinping gave a lot of concession out to the U.S. Because he's not really in control. Speaking of that, which I think is a good time to jump to our second topic, and it's my favorite topic. Let me close that down. Okay. So there's this I need to find a okay, so there's a rumor kind of thing going on Chinese space for China. And it has to do with the fact that Xi Jinping might have a private army, or he had a private army. So what happened was in a Chinese, I kind of touched on this last time, but it's really important because I think it's generating a lot of talks around this. So in this is a Chinese YouTuber named Fang Fei, and she interviewed Cai Xia, who is this lady here. She is a former CCP party school professor. She taught many of the party cadres, and she comes from a very intersectional background in terms of like CCP politics. She comes from a military family in China. She has, the party school sort of connections, and she also has just in general a deep understanding from within the party because she came from that, right? So she taught a bunch of CCP officials. She knows exactly how the party works. In this interview, at the end of it, she mentioned that she allegedly had this division-sized private army that was building up in just outside of Beijing in a little town called Langfang. So this is the place just outside of Beijing, about 15 kilometers or 7-8 miles away from Beijing, that there's troops there. So the way that she described it was like there's 10,000 or 20,000 soldiers stationed there in that area, which then when this was made public, people were like, there's no way that you put 20,000 soldiers in one place and expect people to not know about it, right? But I think there was a little bit of a the way she communicated was wrong. Here's why. So everybody knows like how, like in the United States, right? Special operations wise. And again, if any of you guys are from the military background, you can chime in and let me know if I'm making the right analogy. Imagine if like the Delta Force, which, everybody knows it exists, but no one goes around and says, I'm a Delta Force operator, But let's say there was some special operation that the president authorized or, comes from the Pentagon that needed 10,000 people there. People don't just all fly to this. People don't just all fly to this one base, say in Arizona or something, and then just sit there and prepare for it, right? It's like you wouldn't know about the operation at all because it's a special operation, But the issue with China is like it's the same thing. Like, why would you? Like, we shouldn't be thinking the way that it's like this picture here, that there's a 10,000 soldiers marching on Beijing type of thing, like they're gathering here and they're like setting up camp and station here. It's not like that. So, and then I went on to read other sources from also like Chinese insiders as well as former military backgrounds. So I have about 5 different people telling, or at least telling the world the same thing. So basically, this guy, Yao Cheng, he's a former naval officer. He said that he heard something as well, but at the time he thought it was a hearsay. So his statements weren't that confident or definitive. But he said that there were people gathering. So he confirmed that gathering or that existence is real. And then another gentleman named Cai Shengkun, also who has done a lot of exposure on the CCP, he said that on October 23rd, there was a military group, this news that was delivered to him, and he had already said it, but back then nobody really seemed to have understood it. And then a third one comes from a Chinese dissident who also has a lot of connections. It's a she, was a former reporter in China. And here's the first one. The internal briefing we heard says Miao Hua and He Weidong are racing Lin Biao, which aligns with what Ms. Cai Xia said about forming a private army. What that means, aligning or running or racing Lin Biao, is that Lin Biao was Mao Zedong's top commander, basically, helped him fight the war and won China for him. And then Lin Biao was later found to have been gathering this private ship battle group. I call it a battle group, but it was more like a few boats and some soldiers there. So they thought he was plotting a coup against Mao. So saying that racing Lin Biao means that Mao Hua and He Weidong were trying to plot a coup. And I'll explain who they're trying to plot a coup against soon. But so that is the third source. And then Cai Xia herself mentioned that another lady, this time in a Chinese show called Miss Guo from Elite Forum, says the same thing, except the location isn't in Langfang, which is down here, but rather it's in Baoding, which is down here a little bit further. So Beijing is up here and Baoding is down here. So not in this place, but in this place. Okay, so it's just location-wise, it's different, but it's the existence of it still the same. So this is one person, two person, three, herself, that's four, and this gentleman here. So that's five different people confirming the existence of this. So I think it is real that this thing existed, but not like how you would think. Like there weren't, a division full of soldiers, like 10,000 combat ready soldiers stationed outside of Beijing kind of thing. But what it actually looked like is something interesting. Because if you remember last year, the Financial Times talked about how outside of Beijing, just southwest of Beijing, there was a new command center, like the Chinese Pentagon, that was being constructed, right? And according to this map, it's a huge area. This is the original article. It was China builds huge wartime military command center in Beijing. Now, if you have a command center, who goes to the command center? Well, the top generals. And I guess you would say maybe the mid-level colonels, or I would say mostly probably generals, right? That would go to this command center. So I think what happened was, again, this is just my personal view of this, is that there was a command structure that was set up for this private army in which few top level commanders of this private army went to this secret base and got instructions from Xi Jinping, or from the people that Xi put into place, like Miao Hua and He Weidong. Now, what exactly was that private army for? Well, this is the interesting thing, because the story goes to 2024. Around November of 2024. So those 9 where is that thing? Yeah, okay. So this photo here. So those 9 generals that got purged? So He Weidong and Miao Hua are the top people for Xi Jinping, right? And they've been like, Miao Hua's been he's known Xi Jinping for like 17 years. To say that these guys wanted to plot a coup against Xi, that sounds ridiculous, because who would you build a relationship with for 17 years and then suddenly find out that they don't actually like you? Like, these guys wouldn't have followed Xi before he got, into power if they didn't really cherish the relationship with him. Okay, great question from Sean. Those look like light infantry, and there's nothing to suggest that they're geared for urban combat, so I'm confused about what their purpose and objectives would be. That's a great question. I'll get to it. Now, within the 7 people, there's somebody named Lin Xiangyang, which is the commander of the Eastern Theater Command, which is the command theater for the Taiwan invasion, right? Within that command, you have special operations, you have the Marines, you have combat ready soldiers trained specifically for the purpose of a 48-hour lightning invasion of Taiwan. So my thinking is that under the guise of a Taiwan related training, they could gather troops into the command center, or at least the top commanding generals into the command center to plot something like this. Now, Yao Cheng specifically, so this gentleman here, he specifically mentioned in his live stream that it's very typical for the military in China to do some special operations or special missions and not disclose anything to the regular soldiers. Like the average privates aren't going to learn that we're going to go overthrow the CCP or we're going to go plot something. They just know that when it's time for them to pick up a gun and shoot, they will do it. During the Tiananmen Square massacre in 1989, these soldiers were all shipped from all across China to go to Beijing to suppress the protest. Did they know that they were going to fire on their own student, like on their own people who were young students? Probably not. But they were sent there. They didn't know what they were doing. They were told that these people are a threat to the government, and then they opened fire on them. So it's very easy for an average soldier to be like, "Hey, okay, we got this order from the commander to do something." Right now, what exactly were they trying to accomplish with this private army? Well, basically, back in November of 2024, this guy had already been rumored to disappear. So what I think happened was when he got disappeared in terms of like not by Xi but by other people, the rest of them started to build up for something like a recapture mission or a hostage rescue mission or even a high profile like assassination mission, something like that, where they have a, let's say, you can get a team of like 6 to 8 operators anywhere in China within like 3 to 6 hours, right? Easily. But they also need a backup, which is that division level of enough soldiers in case something goes south. Because you got to remember, like we're talking about Xi losing power here. So if he did lose power, and this is one of the ways he wanted to claw back power, which was through a private army, because the real military control had been given to Zhang Youxia, right? So if everything goes according to that thinking, then the existence of the private army isn't so unrealistic. In fact, I think if we really take into account 9 people, 9 top generals, all from the same commanding chain for invading Taiwan, got canned or got purged on the same day, this guy is probably dead. He's probably somewhere in jail. This guy, who's the commander of the Eastern Theater, is probably also dead. Like there's a lot of generals taken off the shelf in one day. Like you can't tell me that that's Xi Jinping's own doing. So the idea that there's this private army or at least a private command center chain that can mobilize enough people if needed, I think it's very plausible. Now, I think we'll hear more about this because the issue is, even if you are doing okay, so let's say your Eastern Command is your own people, is Xi's people, but even if you mobilize people from your own sort of command, Zhang Youxia would still find ways to know about it, right? Because okay, let's say you're like in a platoon, and then suddenly you're like within the same base, right? You're like, okay, we're off to do some secret mission. The people in the base are going to be like, okay, where are you going? Eventually, if they try to gather 10,000 people, or at least some, maybe even 1,000, there would be some weird movements that gets reported up the command chain. Eventually, it gets to Zhang Youxia, and I think that's what happened. So these people tried to do it, but then they were found out, and then within, I would say, a few months or so. So earlier this year, remember there was that photo that let's see if I can find it. Not this one. Let's see if it's on X. Yeah, so this photo here. Remember, we had Zhang Youxia not looking at Xi Jinping. This is March of this year. So something happened between November of 2024 and March this year that caused him to be like this, to ignore Xi Jinping. Now, in the commentary about the 9 generals being purged, they mentioned 2 important details. One is that these generals plotted to overthrow the central party, and then or to undermine the party controls the gun, which is party controls the military. The second is they undermined the rule of the chairman of the Central Military Commission. So they undermined the chair, who is Xi Jinping. Now, in what world would they get enough audacity to want to overthrow Xi Jinping when some of them only came into power for like 2 years? And many of them had been around Xi, like this photo here. Many of these people have been with Xi since the beginning. Like they're the day ones. They're the OGs. So suddenly what makes them think that they can plot something within a few months from November of 2024 to March of 2025 to overthrow Xi? And if Xi was really in control of the military, this talk of the need of a private army wouldn't have happened because he has the entire military. It's only in the circumstance that you don't have the military that you need a private army of some sort. Training state of the PLA infantry is incredibly low in comparison to NATO armies. The division is simply just bodies rather than capabilities. Yeah, well, I think the point is that they need to have bodies. You haven't accounted for the power of the political commissars at all levels. Well, interesting you mentioned that, because guess what? Some of these guys here, they are political commissars of the military. One is the army, and the other one is the navy, I believe. I can't remember the actual name, but they're the political commissars. This is also the political commissar of the entire military. So they have a lot of power to mobilize. You have the Eastern Theater commander. You have the commander of the People's Armed Police. So you have a lot of mobilization to get into. Interestingly, if Zhang Youxia was involved in this, which he's not, you would have people who were from the Northern Command, Central Command, or the Southern Command, or even the Western Command being implicated in this. Except none of that's happened. It's only the commanding chain of this Taiwan invasion force, which most of them got pulled from the Fujian 31 base, which Xi Jinping cultivated over the years to become these generals to begin with. So this whole line, like this whole faction here, this is Xi's own generals. So if Xi's own generals plotted something like a private army and pulled soldiers or planned to pull soldiers from the Eastern Theater, it only means that Xi asked them to, which he's going to deny, or that these people by themselves had the audacity to pull a coup within 6 months or less. And then you got to question why they want to overthrow Xi after enjoying all of the benefits they've gotten from staying with Xi for 17, 18 years, only to now want to go against him. You know? Chinese fighting Chinese, old habits die hard. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. So I hope I answered that question, by the way. Oh, really? Rumble's not showing video. Answer that question, but that's very interesting. Yeah, I don't know why. Like it says I'm live streaming here, but it's not outputting the video part. Yeah, maybe I need to switch back to the good old OBS multi-stream plugin instead, because this is not working for me. But anyways, we're gonna end the live stream here. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll be back for more live streams. So make sure to tune in regularly, because we'll have these very, very frequently. Dude, I forgot to mention, but this is the building that they've built, or the satellite photos that they have for this area. Like, it's a huge place. It looks like the Pentagon. So if you wanted to place somebody here to have a secret meeting for the commanders of the secret army, this would be a perfect place to do so. But yeah, like this I believe in the article they talked about this. 10,000? No. Okay, maybe not. But that Pentagon place that they have is enough to house about 10,000 staff. So it's a huge place. Like, they can definitely stick some people in there if they needed to. It's just whether or not, they actually mobilized, because it could very much be possible that they tried to mobilize for the purpose of taking down Zhang Youxia, but they failed, and then they got played. So very interesting stuff. But anyways, thanks for watching today. We'll end it right here, and we'll see you